There is a tiny flying car in the Cars universe. It is the size of a bug, and a fully grown, sentient, talking version of that exact same car is probably parked right down the street from it. That is not a joke. That is canon. And once you see it, the whole world of this franchise starts to fall apart in the best possible way. We are talking about the Vroomaroundus Bugus. That is their actual official name. These are the miniature, flying, mindless versions of the Volkswagen Beetle that buzz around in the background of almost every Cars movie in short. Most people walk right past them. They are easy to miss. But these tiny creatures are the single most important clue to understanding how the entire ecosystem of this world actually works. They are the skeleton key. And the reason the name Vroomaroundus Bugus even exists goes back to a simple joke. In America, people have always called the classic Volkswagen Type 1 the Bug. So the animators, building a world set in the rural American Southwest along Route 66, made the bugs literal. They took that nickname and turned it into a species. Small, flying Volkswagen Beetles that behave exactly like real insects. But what started as a quick visual pun ended up accidentally creating one of the most fascinating and genuinely unsettling corners of the entire Pixar universe. Here is the thing you need to understand about this world first. There are no humans in it. Zero. Instead, every single ecological niche that an animal would fill in our world is filled by a machine. Agricultural equipment plays the role of livestock. In the original film, the tractors graze in fields like cows, mindlessly staring forward, tipping over when startled. The giant combine harvester named Frank charges at intruders exactly like an aggressive bull protecting his herd. Small aircraft replace birds. You can see them perched on telephone wires. And at the very bottom of the food chain, in the niche that real insects would occupy, you have the Vroomaroundus Bugus. These things are not random. They have a fully documented set of physical characteristics. Their main body color is a deep blue, though yellow and even bright fluorescent variations have been spotted on screen. They live primarily in warm, dry desert environments, which fits perfectly with the area around Radiator Springs. They have transparent wings that beat fast enough to keep them airborne, sticking out from their side panels. They have thin antennae on the roof, which almost certainly work the same way real insect antennae do, picking up signals from the environment and from other members of the swarm. Their primary way of communicating is a tiny, high-pitched car horn. They use it to attract mates, warn the group about danger, and signal basic feelings. Their headlights and turn signals function as bioluminescent communication, flashing in the dark to send signals to other bugs nearby. Think of fireflies, but made of metal. The sound design alone is worth talking about. That distinctive high-pitched buzzing you hear when one of these things flies past the camera is not a synthesized bug noise. The audio engineers took the actual sound of a real-world four-cylinder Volkswagen Beetle engine and sped it up several times until it matched the frequency of real insect wings. It is a tiny mechanical heartbeat running at biological speed. Ecologically, they behave almost exactly like real flies and beetles. They are strongly attracted to light sources, an instinct scientists call positive phototaxis. They have terrible fuel efficiency, burning through energy at a rapid rate. But to compensate for that, they are incredibly strong for their size. A single Vroomaroundus Bugus can carry or pull up to 4 times its own body weight. Given that combination of traits, the most logical conclusion is that they function as the world's scavengers. They are the cleanup crew. They break down and haul away rust fragments, oil spills, and microscopic pieces of scrap metal. They are what keeps the environment from slowly drowning in its own debris. Now here is where it gets genuinely strange. You have these tiny, mindless, buzzing insect cars flying around the desert, and at the same time, in the same world, there are full-sized, highly intelligent, emotionally complex citizens who are the exact same make and model. They share the same shape, the same design, the same iconic Volkswagen silhouette. One version is a pest you swat off your windshield. The other version is a clown performer or professional racing driver with thoughts, feelings, and a career. To understand how wild this actually is, try to imagine this in the real world. You walk outside and the flies buzzing around your porch light are not insects. They are tiny, mindless, flying copies of a human being. Same face, same shape, just the size of a thumbnail and completely empty inside. That is the reality of daily life in the Cars universe. And we can trace these creatures across the entire franchise and watch how they interact with that world. Their very first appearance comes in the original 2006 film. Sally takes Lightning McQueen up the mountain to show him the abandoned Wheelwell Motel. And if you look closely at the old flickering neon signs, there is a swarm of Vroomaroundus Bugus hovering around the light. It is a small detail, barely a second of screen time, but it is doing real ecological work. These creatures are drawn to light exactly the way moths are in our world. They cannot help it. It is just what they do. Later in that same film, there is a post-credits scene where a dirty minivan drives through the desert and a dried clump of dirt falls off its undercarriage. A single bug bursts out of that dirt clod, completely startled, buzzes straight into the camera lens with a tiny metallic thud, hovers for a moment in what can only be described as confusion, and then darts off into the desert. It is funny, but it is also showing you that these things live in the dirt. They nest in filth and debris. They are scavengers all the way down. But the original film also gives us something much bigger. At the drive-in theater, the Cars are watching a movie. And that movie is an automotive parody of A Bug's Life, with the character Flick reimagined as a modified Vroomaroundus Bugus. This is a massive lore moment. It means the sentient Cars are fully aware that these insects exist in their world, and they have made an entire commercial film about them. They have given the bugs personalities, emotions, heroic stories. They look at these mindless mechanical pests and they see something worth telling stories about. Sound familiar? It is exactly what we do when we make animated movies about ants and fish. But that's not even the craziest part. In the 2006 short Mater and the Ghostlight, Sheriff terrifies Mater with the legend of a mysterious glowing orb haunting the roads at night. Later, Mater is alone in his garage, all his lights out, scared out of his mind, and he sees a glowing yellow orb slowly drifting toward him through the darkness. He panics completely. He braces for the end, and then the orb gets close enough that he can see it clearly. It is a Vroomaroundus Bugus, headlights on full beam, just hovering in the night air. Mater calls it a lightning bug. The joke lands perfectly. But it also confirms something important about their biology. These creatures actively use their vehicular lighting systems in the dark, not just for navigation, but almost certainly for communication with others in the swarm. Then there is the 2010 short Heavy Metal Mater. A lone bug starts buzzing in circles around the drummer in a garage band. The drummer tries to swat it away with his drumsticks, arms flailing, rhythm completely gone. That chaotic, frantic flailing accidentally produces a brand new heavy metal beat, and it launches the entire band to massive success. It is a quick gag, but it shows you something real. These insects casually disrupt the lives of giant, sentient machines just by existing. They do not mean to. They are just following their programming. But the world has to bend around them anyway. The single best piece of lore surrounding these creatures, though, comes from the 2013 short Bugged from the Tales from Radiator Springs series. This one deserves its own breakdown because it tells you more about how this world actually works than almost anything else in the franchise. Red the fire engine is out in the town square early in the morning, gently watering the flowers around the statue of Radiator Springs founder Stanley. Peaceful morning. Good vibes. Then, a Vroomaroundus Bugus flies directly into his face and just hovers there, right in front of his radiator grill, buzzing at a frequency that would make anyone lose their mind. Red tries blowing it away with a burst of engine air. Nothing. He hits it with his fire truck horn at full volume. The bug flies off for a second, then comes right back. Red finally loses it and blasts the thing with a full pressure stream from his fire hose. The buzzing stops. Red smiles. Victory. Then he looks down. The bug is lying on the base of Stanley's statue, soaking wet, wings completely waterlogged, totally grounded. It cannot fly, it cannot move. And Red, this giant red fire truck who is just about ready to end this insect, feels guilty. He leans in close and blows a slow, careful stream of warm air over the bug's wings, drying them out one by one. He nurses it back to health. The bug's engine revs back to life. It shakes itself off and flies away. Red watches it go, satisfied. Maybe even a little proud. 20 seconds later, the bug is back. This time, it brought two friends. All three of them hovering right in Red's face, buzzing in chorus. That ending is doing more than just setting up a punchline. It shows you that these creatures have a basic social memory. They communicate. The original bug went and got backup. It told the others something, and they followed. And it shows you something about the sentient cars, too. Red could have crushed it. By any logic, a fire truck choosing to carefully dry the wings of a pest that has been tormenting him makes no sense. But he did it anyway, because in this world, even the mindless machines are treated as living things worth protecting. Now, here is where the whole universe gets cracked wide open. In 2022, the Disney Plus series Cars on the Road dropped an episode called Dino Park, and it completely rewrote the rules. McQueen and Mater visit Cretaceous Gardens, a paleontological theme park, and inside they find massive fossils and animatronic models of prehistoric automotive reptiles. Creatures with names like Spinocrankshafter X and Quadratorquosaur. Later, in a dream sequence, these things come to life, and they are terrifying. Ancient, monstrous vehicles from millions of years ago. This is the piece that changes everything. It proves that mechanical life in this universe is not the result of a factory assembly line cranking out finished products. It evolved. It went through millions of years of natural selection, extinction events, and adaptation, just like life on Earth. The cars did not get made, they grew. So apply that logic to the bugs. If there was a mechanical T-Rex, then there was also a mechanical Jurassic insect. What did the ancestor of the Vroomaroundus Bugus look like 200 million years ago? Was it a tiny steam-powered cart? A microscopic wooden wheel? How does a species naturally evolve to have a working internal combustion engine inside a body the size of a real beetle? That question does not have a clean answer, and it has been driving people crazy ever since. There are four major theories that try to explain what these creatures actually are and how this whole world came to be. Each one paints a completely different picture, and at least one of them is deeply disturbing. The biggest framework is the Pixar theory, built by analyst John Negroni. His argument is that every Pixar movie takes place in one shared timeline. In that timeline, the Cars movies are set in the distant future, somewhere between 2100 and 2800, after humanity abandoned a dying, garbage-choked Earth on the massive starliners we saw in WALL-E. With people gone, the vehicles and machines left behind slowly developed consciousness. They absorbed the personalities, habits, and memories of their last human owners. That is why there are motels and courthouses and dollar bills and door handles that never open. The cars are running on borrowed culture. Where do the bugs fit in? The Pixar theory points back to WALL-E, where a cockroach survives on the toxic Earth and eventually a plant grows. Real insects made it through. Exposed to industrial pollution, radiation, and chemical waste for centuries, those insects mutated. Some of them developed a biological symbiosis with machine components. Others adapted by fusing scrap metal directly into their exoskeletons just to survive in an environment that was essentially hostile to organic life. The Vroomaroundus Bugus in this reading is what you get when a real insect spends enough generations in a junkyard. There is a darker branch of this same theory. Some researchers argue the bugs were never biological at all. They were built. Nanobots engineered by a corporation, almost certainly by and large, to consume dead machines and break down rust. Mechanical vultures designed to keep the industrial ecosystem from collapsing under its own weight. In this version of the story, the colorful, funny little beetles are garbage disposal units, and the warm, animated world they inhabit is actually a post-collapse wasteland being quietly managed by corporate cleanup drones. The second theory is the one that genuinely keeps people up at night. Automotive journalist Jason Torchensky proposed what gets called the homunculus theory. His argument is that this is not the distant future, it is the near future, and inside every single car, sealed permanently behind those doors that never open, is a human being. The theory goes like this. As autonomous vehicle technology advanced, extreme automotive enthusiasts started going further. Using genetic engineering and neural interfacing, they physically merged their bodies with their cars. Their brains connect directly to the car's electrical system. Their nervous system runs through the steering column. Their body's waste is processed by the engine and expelled through the exhaust. The car body is not a vehicle. It is an armored shell built around a living person. This explains almost everything. Why the cars breathe, why they have eyes, why they can eat organic food, which we see when Mater swallows a huge spoonful of wasabi in Cars 2, and his engine processes it like a stomach, and why those doors are sealed shut. Opening them would expose the fragile biological core inside. The car body is both home and prison. In this theory, the Vroomaroundus Bugus are real flies and real bees, caught and sealed inside tiny mechanical shells shaped like Volkswagen Beetles. Not because it made biological sense, but because someone wanted the entire ecosystem to look uniform. They destroyed the true nature of the insects to make them match the aesthetic. It is one of the darker ideas in all of animation theory. The third theory comes from media analyst Matt Pat, and it flips the whole thing upside down. His argument is that none of these characters are machines at all. They are all giant insects. After humans disappeared, plant life exploded with no one to control it. Oxygen levels in the atmosphere spiked dramatically. High enough, Matt Pat argues, for insects to undergo gigantism, growing to the size of trucks and planes, the same way enormous arthropods existed on Earth during the Carboniferous period. These giant insects then learned to integrate metal from the abandoned junkyards around them, forming rigid metallic shells as protective exoskeletons. Over generations, they started to look exactly like the vehicles humans had left behind. In this reading, the Vroomaroundus Bugus are the insects that never grew. They kept their original small size while every other species scaled up. They are the baseline, the relict form, the ones that stayed behind while their cousins became Lightning McQueen. It is a fun idea, but it collapses when you look at the hard facts. Cars in this universe have internal combustion engines. They consume gasoline and motor oil. They need spark plugs and brake fluid and mechanical service from trained professionals. There are literally factories in this world where new car models are assembled on conveyor belts. You cannot build a biological insect on a factory line. The moment you accept that car factories exist, the insect evolution theory is done. Which brings us to the fourth theory, and honestly, the most logical one, the AI terraforming hypothesis. This one argues that the entire ecosystem was deliberately constructed by an artificial intelligence that was trying to rebuild the lost biosphere of Earth. But the only blueprints this AI had access to were industrial designs. So it built the food chain out of machines. It created tractors to fill the cow niche, aircraft to fill the bird niche, and subcompact Volkswagen Beetles to fill the insect niche. Every species in this world, regardless of how intelligent they are, runs on an internal combustion engine, because they were all built from the same industrial template library. The AI did not evolve them. It deployed them. This theory explains something the others cannot. It explains the clean, intentional design logic of the whole world. It looks designed because it was designed. Every creature is a machine because a machine made every creature. Now stack these 4 theories against the actual canonical evidence and see what survives. The Pixar theory works best if you accept the WALL-E connection and leave room for biological mutation. The Homunculus theory accounts for a lot of the physical evidence, but gets complicated by what animators have said about how the car bodies actually function. The insect evolution theory is killed outright by the existence of car factories, and the AI terraforming theory holds up almost completely under scrutiny, which is not something you can say about many fan theories. But here is what all 4 theories are circling without quite landing on. The real answer might be in the energy itself. Dynaco, the dominant oil company in the Cars universe, has a dinosaur as its logo. Cars on the Road confirmed that automotive dinosaurs existed millions of years ago. These enormous, ancient machines lived, roamed, and died. Their metallic remains sank into the earth and, over millions of years, compressed into the oil and gasoline that modern cars now pump directly into their engines. They are burning their ancestors. Every time Lightning McQueen pulls into a gas station, he is consuming the liquefied remains of the Spino Crankshafter X. It is a closed loop, a perfectly sealed cycle of mechanical life consuming mechanical death. And inside that cycle, the Vroomaroundus Bugus has a specific job. Given their extraordinary strength relative to their size and their terrible fuel efficiency that pushes them to constantly consume material from their surroundings, they are almost certainly the world's primary scavengers. They break down rust, they drink oil spills, they haul away fragments of decaying scrap metal, they process the microscopic debris that the larger machines leave behind. They keep the cycle moving. Without them, the world would slowly choke on its own waste. The people who actually built this world have their own take on all of this, and it is worth knowing where they stand before you go too deep down the theory rabbit hole. Jay Ward is the creative director of the Cars franchise and the author of the internal studio document called The World of Cars Owner's Manual. During the press tour for Cars 3, he gave his own explanation for why there are no humans. As autonomous driving technology improved, the cars gradually got smarter and smarter. Eventually they woke up, looked around, and realized humans were just slowing them down. So they got rid of us. Then they absorbed our personalities and cultures and kept everything running. That is why they have courthouses and motels and gas stations. They inherited our world and made it their own. When someone brought up the insect evolution theory directly, asking whether the cars might secretly be giant evolved bugs, Ward was blunt. He said he is not trying to convince anyone that cars are bugs. He said the theory was absurd. He pushed back on the whole idea of connecting every Pixar movie into one giant unified timeline, calling that kind of deep dive thinking more like a conspiracy theory than genuine analysis. But here is the tension that makes this all so interesting. Ward and the original creator John Lasseter keep insisting the bugs were just a visual joke, just a pun, just a gag for a movie set in rural America. And at the same time, the internal studio rules they themselves created say the car's brain is located in the cabin, that the doors are sealed shut because opening them would be fatal, that the engine functions as both a heart and a digestive system, that these machines can eat organic food because their engines process it like a stomach. They built a world with such specific, rigid, biological rules that it demands to be analyzed. And then they tell you not to analyze it. That tension is the engine that keeps theorists running. And it all comes back to the bugs. Think about what it actually means that sentient Volkswagen Beetles and mindless insect Volkswagen Beetles exist in the same world at the same time. Kelly Beambright is a full-sized, thinking, feeling, cream and pink Volkswagen Beetle who works as a circus clown and stunt performer. Royce Revsley is a custom-modified 1967 Volkswagen Beetle who hits 165 miles per hour on the salt flats, thinks, competes, and has a personality. And in the Happy Meal toy line released alongside the Cars on the Road series, some of the miniature Vroomaroundus bugs are modeled directly after Royce's specific custom design. Royce has microscopic, mindless clones of himself flying around in the desert dirt. There is a word for what is happening here. It is convergent evolution. The Volkswagen Beetle shape turned out to be optimal for survival across two completely different ecological niches. In the niche of decomposers and pollinators, that shape compressed down to insect size and lost all its intelligence, keeping only the most basic instincts: fly toward light, react to threats, honk to signal the group. In the niche of the dominant intelligent species, that same shape scaled up and developed full consciousness, free will, language, ambition, and a really strong opinion about racing. Same body, two completely different beings, running parallel to each other every single day. Try to sit with that for a second. Every sentient car in Radiator Springs wakes up knowing that somewhere out in the desert, there are tiny, mindless clones of their body type buzzing around in the dirt. They watch them swarm the streetlights at night. They swat them off their windshields in the morning. Some of them, like Red, save them when they get hurt. And then they go to the drive-in and watch a movie about how those same creatures are brave and noble and have little families and jobs and a hero's journey. They project their own inner lives onto the bugs the same way we project our inner lives onto animals in animated films. The consciousness that can look at something mindless and write it a story is one of the most specifically complex things a mind can do. And the sentient cars of this world do it casually, on a Friday night eating motor oil popcorn under the stars. The Vroomaroundus Bugus was meant to be nothing. It was a background detail, a quick joke, a pun that got animated, but it became the lens that focuses everything. Every major question about this universe, where the cars came from, how they evolved, what the food chain looks like, whether any of this was natural or designed, traces back to those tiny, buzzing machines. From the original films to the short Bugged to the full lore expansion in Cars on the Road, the picture that builds is consistent. This world runs on the same rules as our world. There is a food chain. There are scavengers. There are pack instincts and evolutionary pressures and millions of years of change written into every chassis. The mechanical dinosaurs confirm deep time. The car factories confirm designed manufacture. The bugs sit right at the intersection of both, impossible by either logic, and yet absolutely there, buzzing around the neon signs every single night. The creators say it was just a joke. The lore says otherwise. And in the end, the Vroomaroundus Bugus just keeps doing what it does, buzzing with the sound of a flat 4 engine, swarming toward the light, driving fire trucks completely insane. If this changed how you see the whole world of this franchise, I have a lot more where that came from. Click right here for my deep dive into what actually happened to Doc Hudson. Or check out this one where we finally answer the question of who Celine Defar really is. The lore goes way deeper than you think. Keep your headlights on, and I will see you in the next one.